welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And we want to welcome you here to the show today. There's a lot of information, but I have a special opening that I have to say. A very respectable and very well-known physician here in Fall River has passed away. Dr. Paul Dunn, who was an ophthalmologist and surgeon here in Fall River, passed away recently. And he played an important part in my childhood life as he was my eye surgeon, which kept keeping my eyes in gear and allowing me to be able to see. And he kicked my butt more often than once throughout school, and actually, you know, made it my graduations from the various programs in my nursing school very happy. I was surprised. He had a very familial way with his pediatric patients, and he followed us all along. And I want to send out my respects to Donna, his wife, and to his children and grandchildren and family at this time of loss. This was a severe loss to me as well. And Dr. Dunn was very active here at BCC and throughout the city of Fall River. Loved to ski, play tennis, and for a man of 94 years old, he lasted a good long time. So God grant you some peace, Dr. Dunn, and thank you for that short and brief message. And now to the drama known as the City of Fall River. First, great news for all you people in Fall River. The mayor has stated that, like it or not, the city council has no authority over pay-as-you-throw, and therefore on August 1st, pay-as-you-throw will start, and that is it. That is the final line, is pay-as-you-throw. So no matter what you say, no matter what you do, he's doing it. I love dictators. I think it's wonderful. Sieg Heil, mein Führer.
Well, I guess we're going to have to change his first name to Adolf. I don't know, maybe. But I don't just understand this. Is this the man that said that he wouldn't even consider pay-as-you-throw during the mayoral debates?
Oh yeah,
You know, come to think of it, that's the same guy who also said that the stormwater fee was illegal.
Yep.
And has said so many things that have been absolute fabrications. So I guess all the talk about the city budget is really irrelevant because the mayor does whatever he wants. So if he wants to incorporate pay-as-you-throw and he wants to set the rates for the bags, he's just going to do whatever he wants. And at the city council meeting, there were some very, very good points made. One was that we've paid 3 times. Stephanie Corey made it clear, and it was a good presentation. Number one, she said that receivership, and she highlighted some cities, some of which I was familiar with the receivership. Actually, when it was Chelsea, the president of the Chelsea Firefighters Union was a very close friend of mine, and I knew what he went through during the receivership. However, they all recovered. Their budgets were balanced, even Central Falls and Rhode Island. She brought that point forward, which is accurate. Secondly, she said, which is accurate, we're paying 3 times to get our trash picked up. We're paying our property taxes, and we're paying a bond for the barrels or the bins or whatever euphemism you want to call them. I just call them giant edifices to taxing. And now we're going to pay for the bags that we put in the bins that we bonded and our taxes that we pay. So, you know, again, this giant vacuum cleaner that we call a city government run by Will Flanagan is in full gear, just sucking the money right out of the city.
You know, the interesting part about it is that Chapter 44, Section 28C addressed this, and the mayor never brought this out to anyone in the city. And I found it, and I started calling cities and towns and found out that you do have to have this money, solid waste money, can only go towards solid waste management and its debts, nothing else. It can't go to fire, it can't go to teachers, it can't go to DPW, or in other words, DCM, for the roads and everything else. So how does he do this then? How does he get the money for the fire department and the school department and DCM? Well, what he does is the $3.5 million he's planning on getting from pay-as-you-throw is withdrawn from DCM for trash removal and is given to the other departments. Now, I asked very clearly to Ken Pacheco the first day of the budget meetings, what happens if 10, 20, or 30% of the property owners leave and go to privatization? He goes, well, then that's 10, 20, or 30% of the budget I won't have to spend because it's not there. Because I won't be getting that money and I won't be getting that trash and I won't have to pay to dispose of it. But the problem is this, the pay-as-you-throw program creates an enterprise fund, which, by the way, was created in 2008 by then-Mayor Bob Correa. So this has been in the background for a long time. And when I started reviewing the budgets, next to water and sewer, and there is an enterprise fund there that has not been used or activated. So we have an enterprise fund. Now I asked, well, doesn't that mean that waste management has to be removed from DCM? He goes, oh no, because the salaries right now are set up for roads and highways and trash removal. But my question is, how do we keep that money separated? I don't think Ken Pacheco is going to combine them. I don't think Ken Pacheco is going to say, well, we need some of the money out of that. But, you know, isn't it better to create a separate department to handle waste management now, separate from DCM, so that that money is accountable, just like the water department and the sewer department are? They're separate from everything else. So maybe waste management needs to do that as well. We've seen too much juggling of money in Fall River.
You're right, and as you said, it's amazing that we have a lawyer for a mayor, and there's a law that covers this, and it's never been mentioned. And as you said, Chapter 44, Section 28C, and it's actually subsection F.
Right.
As in Frank. But the entire section is basically about it, and it's very clear about these things have to be used specifically for solid waste and associated costs, not just for the waste removal, but even to build transfer facilities can be used. However, it's very narrow. It's about solid waste. It's not about highway maintenance or anything else. And you know, the Department of Community Maintenance does many, many jobs. And as you said, we're going to give these people money that's earmarked for a very specific purpose, and we really expect them to do this. We've seen what they've done with the health care money. We've seen what they've done with every conceivable account. Every figure that they give is never there for more than a week or two, or a day or two in some cases. Meg Mayo Brown was just complaining about the figures, that the figures, every time they talk to the city, the figures change. Every time we talked about it during the Blue Cross negotiations and healthcare negotiations, figures changed almost on a daily basis. The fact is, we can't get our house in order. And as I've been saying before, you know, maybe it is time for receivership. Maybe we should bring a neutral person in that will cut these, that will get down to the bottom of this and cut where we need to be cut. Because I will tell you, I was appalled at the city council budget hearings when I see the two attorneys walk in with their coffees and sit in the back row and smile and giggle when their jobs aren't on the line, and I see DPW workers and firefighters and other city employees that are there because they've been threatened with the loss of their job if we don't pass this budget, if we don't have pay as you throw. And as I said in front of the council, and I'll say it here on Spindle City Straight Talk, this city needs to be shut down if we haven't figured out that police, fire, trash, education are essential services, and those are the first things that have to be paid for with our tax dollars. We should not be paying for these essential services with monies that are maybes and ifs, and what if we get enough? What happens if we don't raise enough with health care? What happens if we don't get enough out of the pay-as-you-throw? These are not the jobs that should be on the chopping block. The jobs that should be on the chopping block are all the consultants, all the assistants. The man who makes $6,500 in travel expenses to drive to Fall River to go to work. When you drive to work, does your employer give you gas money? I don't think so. This city is a catastrophe.
It's a program and a plan for failure. The whole budget, the whole system, and the way it's set up is a program and plan for failure. And it's really interesting because Meg Mayo Brown has gone on the radio almost daily talking about how the money that's in the budget is not going to meet net school spending. And she has sent, and I have copies of the emails, she has sent, and so have many other people, emails back and forth to Mr. Sullivan at the Department of Education asking, does this qualify? And he sends back, no. Does this qualify? No. Does this qualify? No. Everything they're sending, and it comes back as disqualified, the mayor keeps trying to put them back in, saying that meets net school spending. It doesn't. $97 million is not going to meet net school spending. So none of the school committee members could get an answer directly from Department of Education. So I sent Mr. Sullivan an email with carbon copies going to the entire city council so that they knew what was going to happen in regards to if this budget gets passed and the $97 million is approved for the school department, what happens? Well, they shifted the matter off to somebody else. Mr. Sullivan sent it to somebody else who turned around and said, we can't make a comment on a hypothetical budget. What's hypothetical about it? It's being proposed for the budget. But she clarified a little further. She says, pursuant to Chapter 70, Section 6, which is the enforcement of the Chapter 70 monies, if we don't do it, we lose our Chapter 70 money, which now means we're on the hook because it's fuzzy mathematics again. Well, the 2.8 we were short in fiscal year 2014, we paid in fiscal year 2015, but now we're 4.3 short in 2015, but that's still less than the 5%. No, it doesn't work that way. Last year's has to be paid and this year's has to be 100% met. That's how that works. And what you're doing is they're including the 2.8 from last year into this year's school budget, and they're not supposed to. But they're going to do it anyways. So when you do this, Mr. Mayor, and the state says you're losing your Chapter 70 money, don't come back to the city council and say, we have to, because you know what, Mr. Mayor? You did it.
What does the superintendent of schools know? She's only the superintendent of schools. We know that Will Flanagan gets to do anything he wants, because if he doesn't like the law, he ignores it. If he doesn't like the rule, he breaks it. If he doesn't like the number, he changes it. That's the way Fall River is doing business. So let's put the blame squarely where it belongs, because he's trying to divert it and saying if this budget doesn't get passed, we're not going to have fire protection. Well, guess what, Mr. Flanagan? When Bob Carrere left, we had 153 firefighters funded. Last year, in the 2014 fiscal year budget, you reduced that number to 142. Now it's been reduced to 140 in this year's budget. So not only did we lose all the positions that were funded by the SAFER grant, which, by the way, you were told by the federal government to prepare to fund for 4 years, you removed an additional 11 and now 13 positions that were funded by the taxpayers. We didn't want you to take that money. You've never explained where that $1.3 million is gone. You never explain where any of the money goes, and it does go. And I'm going to tell you something. If this budget gets passed, you may see people talking about a recall again very, very seriously, because when you ignore the public and you say, look, I'm going to do it no matter what. I don't care if the public doesn't like it. I don't care if the poor can't afford it. I don't care. But we're going to have $9,000 doors on the law department budget. And by the way, I know that someone went up during Citizens Input and said, I work behind the infamous $9,000 door and we do a lot of work in that thing. Nobody's ever said that the people in that office, the clerks, don't do the work. I don't believe the law department's very efficient. I don't think they deserve the salaries they get. I don't think we should be hiring someone from Rhode Island and paying her $81,000 right out of law school when an assistant DA gets about $35,000. I think there are a lot of things wrong. We're not talking about the work ethic. Dummies. When you live in a cardboard shack, you don't put a $9,000 door on it. It's about spending money foolishly. That's what the door's about. It's about improper use of the taxpayer money. It's not about what kind of work goes on behind the door. It's about the fact that that door doesn't belong there. We in Fall River do not have a champagne budget.
We don't even have a beer budget.
And we don't even have a beer budget. So I want to make that point clear, because I'm getting tired of all the baloney that goes on when they move up these people and try to make it like, oh, you're casting aspersions about our work. Well, you know, there are plenty of aspersions to be cast when you lose $800,000 to Dominion, and then you appeal it, and you're the only lawyers on the planet that didn't know you couldn't win the case. But that's another issue. The issue here is the budget. The issue here is how we spend our money. And again, they don't care. The giant vacuum cleaner called Will Flanagan is just saying, screw it, let's tax them some more.
You know, and it's true, because I had made comments at the budget meeting on Monday, and I said that, you know, there are people here that are here because they fear for their jobs. And I said, some of them were coerced here because they were told, you'll lose your job if you don't get this budget passed, which is a violation of 150E. And there was a small group of people to my right, up in the corner, who were like, no, that didn't happen. That's wrong. No, that never happens. We know. We've both been told. We've verified this information. We've gotten it. We know certain departments in the city are playing nice with the mayor so that they can get what they need to provide services to the people of Fall River. That shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't play nice to make sure you've got the money to do the job that's required. You should be able to say, we need this, and this is how much it costs, and that's it. But instead, some departments are, you know, coating it with sugar and trying to make it go down easy, and that's not going to happen in Fall River. The people of Fall River just don't realize this.
Well, the other problem is, as I said in my presentation for the council, they are there because they were coerced. You can call it anything. When a man goes on the radio and says these people are going to lose their jobs, and he sends out the word, whether it's, you know, directly or indirectly, backroom meetings, but he's gone public and said, look, if I don't get my way, if I don't get my budget, we're going to go down to 140 firefighters, even though everybody said 153 is the absolute minimum. So who's responsible for putting lives at risk? The mayor. Now, what do you expect the fire department to do? They want to keep their men. So they're going to go, well, you know, we can't not show up and support this budget. But the fact is, fellas, and I said it there to you, and you're my brothers, you're going to be back again next year. Because I called this budget, and I'm not sure which one. We'll let you vote on it. Get a hold of us via email or telephone. It's either the Dutch boy budget with the little Dutch boy sticking his finger in the dikes where all the leaks are, or it's the Band-Aid budget. Because next year, we're going to be in the same position that we are this year. Just as last year's budget was a facade, and we said it, and it's proven to be that way. And now here we have a budget predicated on a pay-as-you-throw, which may be a dismal failure by next year if too many people go. So they're going to raise the price of that again. And then we have a whole bunch of our debt being paid off by projected savings in health care. Well, everybody knows that health care never goes down. What happens next year when we don't save as much, when the cost of health care goes up and we don't generate as much savings, which is really taking out of the pocket of the employees? But what happens when, again, we have a revenue shortfall? It's going to be, again, oh, God, we're $14 million in the hole. And all the departments are going to be going back there and saying, pass this budget again. Well, people, I've got to read one of my quotes, because it seems that nobody in Fall River gets that you can't tax your way out of debt. And this is a quote from John Dale Davidson. The politicians don't just want your money. They want your soul. They want you to be worn down by taxes until you are dependent and helpless. And people, We're there.
You know, it's interesting because Mike Roderick's went on the radio and made it very, very clear. You know, obviously this wasn't a hooray for Will Flanagan event on the radio, but Fall River gets some of the most money from the state than any other community in the Commonwealth. And we still can't make a budget work. And now there's a rumor that the healthcare compromise that was come up with between the retirees and the city employees, et cetera, to keep it in Blue Cross Blue Shield might now be Fig Newton of everyone's imagination.
Well,
I don't know if it's a Fig Newton or not, but
well, that's not a rumor, it's a fact. The fact is that the agreement that was signed is not the agreement that the city wants to enter into now. There's an issue. The city wanted to go to a premium plan, and now they're saying they want to go to a remain a self-insurer, which is something that we attempted to get initially, but Kathy Ann Vivera said absolutely not. They wanted to fix costs. But now there are other issues, money issues. Guess what? They don't have the money again. So we have to have another meeting and in fact discuss it. And we are going to have a meeting with our number crunches. And the city is going to try to blame Blue Cross, but we have a meeting Friday, and we will affix the blame on our next show exactly where it belongs. We'll have full information on it. And the reality is, I can venture a pretty good guess that the problem lies in the city's broke again.
well, you know, it's not like we didn't hear this already. The reason why they wanted to go to GIC was because the treasurer, for the first time, actually gave us some numbers which were totally misleading from what the city had been told we had in those healthcare accounts. And the reason they want to go to GIC is the $7 million required for incurred but not recorded debt or bills could be bonded. There's the magic word for the Flanagan administration. Bond, bond, bond away. And with Blue Cross Blue Shield, they can't bond that $7 million. So I was trying to figure out how they were going to do this as well, and you and I talked about it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that they're supposed to have that money. See,
Oh, yeah,
we get back to that bottom line that's always there. Like, you know, we said when we began this show, follow the money. Well, that's the problem. You can't follow what you can't find, and nobody can find the money. That's why we need an audit, because the fact is that when we got Blue Cross, we changed plans. And I was the chairman of the Insurance Advisory Committee at the time. There are always discussions about how much you have to have in reserve to cover incurred but not reported runoff claims. So that money was supposed to be there. Where has it gone? Where has the city's portion of the money that we saved by being 10% under budget gone? We have $6 million in our employee trust fund.
Well, some of it went to a auditor, which gets paid for driving to work. Some of it went to a $9,000 door, $6,000 shower. You know,
how can we? You know, my point is, how can we go from the employee side's got 6 and there's a 75-25 ratio, so they should have 18 million. But even if we had a carryover from last year and it's only 12, we went from 12 million to 134,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Somewhere we lost almost $12 million, or we spent $12 million. And that's the problem, people. We can't figure out where our money is. And you know something? To me, when you got it like that, it's time to file.
Yeah.
Time to go to receivership. And I hear that there are some city councilors that are vacillating now. They're going to use the thing of, well, we have to fund the budget because we have to keep the city going. Well, guess what?
Mike Mioza already did that. Mike Mioza said he is voting for this budget.
Well,
and
that may cost him his city council seat, and I like Mike.
so do I. I like.
And
Mike
I'm
a
going to
lot.
tell him point blank that, you know, I'm tired of you telling me that you're going to allow the mayor of this city to waste my tax money, not put it where I want it to be put. Because if we don't, we're going to go bankrupt. Well, we're already bankrupt. If it's that bad and he can't do the right thing, let's get the receiver down here.
I agree. And, I think it's a joke, too, because, Danny Rigo has said he's not going to vote for this budget unless the city agrees to a full forensic audit. They don't like the word forensic because, quote unquote, it sounds criminal. But the bottom line is he wants a full audit. While Kathy Ann is mentioning that, well, we'll do a pro forma audit. You know what pro forma means? Here's the stuff, it's done. Means absolutely nothing. We're not looking at where the money's going. We need to get a full forensic audit. And we can ask you to call the mayor's office and ask your city councils and show up with signs and letters, but you know what? It doesn't seem to hit over there. You have to call the inspector general. You have to call the attorney general. You have to call your state reps, and you have to let them know, because this has already gone beyond foolishness. We are the laughing stock of Massachusetts and just about the laughing stock of the country. Fall River is now a swear word to finance people across the country. It's not even funny anymore. And we have all these big and wonderful plans for what we're going to do with the Wall Street, and the money's coming from the state, but we have no formal plan in place. Plus, the city council is now following the mayor's lead that if the law is in the way, ignore it. In three now, city council meetings or budget meetings, non-city residents have been allowed to testify or give a 3-minute speech on what should happen, and most of those people have gone over, like Terry Sullivan, like Rob Mellion, and no waiver of the rules was voted upon or asked for. That's not right. Citizens' input time is for citizens. If Terry Sullivan wants to take 27 minutes, get put on the agenda. If Rob Mellion wants to take an hour, get put on the agenda. All right? And I was told, and this is how we're going to close the show, that you shouldn't ask questions, because when you ask questions, you're pointed out as the enemy, and therefore you are in trouble. And I was told that by a supposedly reputable man who is an attorney here in the city who is supposedly trying to sell Fall River. And I do not mean the man in the Office of Economic Disaster. And on that, thank you for watching, and please continue to watch because we've got more news coming at you.
Call your city councilors. Tell them no budget.